Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in, just imagine breathing in a feeling of calm and tranquility. And as you exhale, just allow your eyelids to close. That's it. I want you to position your body in a way that you can feel comfortable, to allow tension to leave your body, and to become more and more aware of your breathing. Because people breathe in a particular way when they're in a waking state, normally shallow from the chest. But as the breathing slows down, it opens up that diaphragm, so much so that you tend to breathe in through the nose, deeper than you normally would. But as you exhale, that slow, deliberate outward breath tends to empty the lungs more than they normally would, so that the next breath in is a deeper breath. And as that slow, rhythmic, deep breath finds that rhythm, finds that pattern, the brainwaves synchronize with the breathing. So in a waking state, that shallow, rapid breathing has a higher frequency, an alpha frequency in your brainwaves. But as the breathing slows down, the brainwaves change, initially to that beta frequency. And the clue to a beta frequency is that you can feel relaxed, you feel comfortable, you feel tension leaving your body. But eventually that can lead to a theta wave frequency. Theta wave frequency, you get lost in your own thoughts. Very slow, deep breathing that you're not even aware of. Almost like you're getting lost in your own imagination. And in that place, powerful changes can take place. I want you to get an idea that your brain is infinitely more capable than anyone can ever realize. But sometimes that powerful brain needs an update on how to evaluate certain things. Sometimes we look at choices we make simply in isolation, without realizing that if we were to look at them in a similar way to how we make great choices, then it becomes easier to make those great choices. So I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine that you're driving on a motorway. Maybe you can imagine your hands on the steering wheel. See the car going on that motorway. See the cars around you. Gauge the speed on that motorway. And maybe you're in one lane or a different lane. But I want you to imagine you've been driving for a while and you ever so slightly become aware that you've drifted out of your lane. Isn't it intuitive? The moment you realize to just adjust the steering wheel and drift back in your lane. Just because you leave the lane ever so slightly doesn't mean you never return to that lane. It just means that you evaluate the feedback, evaluate that you're in a place where you don't want to be, and make the adjustments required to return to your lane. I want you to get a sense that in a motorway, maybe there's 3, 4, even 5 lanes. And you choose the lane proportionate to the speed you want to get to your destination. There'll be certain journeys that you're in no rush. You don't need to be overtaking. Maybe you put the car in cruise control and you're just happy to slow down when needed. Stay in your lane knowing that you'll get to your destination even if it takes a bit longer. And there's other times that it's important that you get there maybe earlier, so you don't mind making slightly different choices, choosing to overtake, choosing to increase the acceleration. And by making those choices, you get there quicker, and other choices would get you there slower. But just because you make a choice not to overtake doesn't mean that you've lost control of the car. Doesn't mean you'll never get to your destination. It just means that it might take a little longer, and you're okay with that. Sometimes when we're driving, we enter a trance state. A state where you don't even realize changing gear, changing lane, speeding up or slowing down, the car almost drives itself. So I want you to imagine that you're daydreaming while driving of a football game. Maybe a football game where you were the coach. But it wasn't a straightforward game. There are some games where you lose all the way through and other games where you're winning all the way through. But the most exciting games are the games where the momentum turns. Sometimes the momentum is with your team, and sometimes with the other team. When the other team has possession, it makes it all the more important to get that ball back. And I want you to start thinking of your food choices as a game of football. That when you're making the choices that you want to make, you've got possession, you're making progress, you're winning that game. But every now and then there'll be a part of you that craves foods that you know aren't the healthiest. They might feel like they're desirable, but the clue is always regret. If you have a food and wish you hadn't, you're annoyed at yourself, then temporarily you've lost possession. You've lost control. But it doesn't mean that you've lost the game. I want you to think, when you've played football or coached football, what is your intuition telling you when the opposing team gets possession of that ball? Just as your intuition would say when you drift outside of a lane to get back in your lane. Maybe your intuition is to do whatever it takes to get that ball back, to regain possession. Because when you have possession, you decide if you attack, you decide if you pass, you decide what you do. Whereas when they have possession, you have to anticipate. You have to make your decisions not based on what you want, but what the other team are doing. And I want you to get a sense that there's many games you've played or coached where you lost possession temporarily, but then you got it back. And when you got it back, maybe that led to a chain of events that led to a goal. I want you to get a sense that when it comes to food, every now and then you might lose control, you might lose possession. But doesn't it feel good when you get it back? I want you to imagine watching a topsy-turvy game of football. Sometimes you're in the lead, sometimes you're behind, but you never give up. I want you to see that you're the players with the belief that things can be turned around. As you're watching that game, I want your mind to be open to new ways of thinking about choice and control. As you believe that you are in control of your choices around food and exercise. And ever you make those good choices, it makes you feel good instantly. It makes you feel powerful and in control whenever you make a good choice. That you have that power to choose nourishing food that fuel your body and support your well-being. If you feel like you've lost control, just making one healthy choice brings a sense of strength and power. That you are the master of your own choices. You decide what foods move you forward. I want you to think of how you felt as a coach where you lost possession and then gained it back. Had that good feeling. And every time you choose a healthy option, I want you to feel a surge of inner power and control. Your body craves these nutritious foods that give you energy and vitality. And you know that to be true because in the past, when you've had these foods that you thought you wanted, they never quite lived up to their expectation. Therefore, doesn't it make sense to make choices that feel good in the moment and also feel good when you think about that choice later? And if every now and then you succumb to temptation and make a choice that wasn't great, it doesn't mean that you've lost the game. It doesn't mean that the day is written off. It's the equivalent of drifting slightly outside your lane and just deciding to get back in your lane with just one healthy choice. In a game of football, if you get tackled, doesn't mean you've lost the game. You've just lost possession. The game is still winnable. And I want you to get a sense that no matter what happens, the game is still winnable. You can think of numerous football games where it looked like all was lost, and yet there were amazing comebacks. And it will feel like that for you if you made a whole morning of not the best choices, but to come back from that and spend the rest of the afternoon and the evening making great choices is going to feel like a comeback. Your inner strength guides you to make choices that support the person that you really want to be. I want you to imagine this football game, this topsy-turvy game, where the momentum changed. See that inner belief, that fighting spirit in the players, and feel that same feeling inside you, that no matter what happens, you've got the belief that the game is winnable. I want you to get a sense that sometimes in any game, just one game contributes to something bigger, maybe a league, maybe a tournament. In football, over time, you've developed these streaks. Maybe there was 3 or 4 games you won in a row. Maybe you got all the way to the latter stages of a tournament, and I want you to get a sense that belief grew and momentum grew the more games that you won. And it will feel this way now when you're looking at that app. Every day that you've had less calories than your target will feel like you've won the day. And if you've lost the day, then the next day you'll have even more desire to win the day. But as you build these streaks, beliefs grow. I want you to think of a team that you followed that perhaps were almost invincible for an entire tournament or an entire league. Their expectation was that every game they play, they're going to win. And I want you to unlock that belief, that feeling in you that every day that you make great choices gives you a feeling that you can make even better choices the next day. You don't have to be perfect. Because even these teams that were invincible over a tournament or a league, they still got tackled. They still had goals scored against them. But it did not affect their momentum or their flow. They just treated it as information. And their desire was, if they've been scored against, then they need to score more. If they've been tackled, to get back that possession. And I want you to get a sense that all these things that you're good at in your life mean that you're also good at making choices when it comes to food. Sometimes in the past, you might have made the false evaluation that food is going to make you feel a way that it didn't. But the goal then isn't to chase more food to make you feel that way. It's to feel powerful and strong for making those other choices. I want you to imagine seeing that team in that topsy-turvy game win. And what made it extra special was that victory wasn't guaranteed, that the game could have been lost but was won. And I want you to imagine that's how it's going to feel on these days where you weren't making the best choices, but you didn't give up. You returned to your lane, made as many good choices as you can. And winning the day isn't necessarily meaning that you've eaten less calories than your target. Sometimes winning the day is getting back in your lane when you thought you'd lost it. To make good choices after making several bad choices. That is also winning the game. I want you to imagine watching a boxing match. Maybe a recognizable fighter that you know is talented, you know is a good fighter. Every fighter will get punched in the face. That doesn't mean they lose the match. There are exceptional fighters that have been knocked to the canvas. But the fighters we admire are not the perfect fighters. It's the fighters that can take a hit and keep playing that game. They get knocked down and then get back up again. And from this point forwards, making just one or two bad choices when it comes to food is not losing the game, it's just getting knocked down. And I want you to feel that inner resilience, that determination to get back up again. That you don't mind being knocked down because you trust your ability to get back up. And if your unconscious mind is willing to accept these suggestions, to unlock the resilience, to give you a sense of motivation and desire to get back on track if you feel like you've gone astray, just let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to imagine visualizing the future with this way of thinking. See a future version of you that maybe has maybe a bagel, but then doesn't have that second one. Maybe has some sweet things with the kids, maybe a dessert or some confectionery. but then has no desire to have any more. In fact, deliberately makes a healthy choice after that to get back on track. I want you to see that future version of you, eager to get back control when you feel like you've lost it, and that makes you feel powerful, strong, and motivated. And when you can see that future, that it's okay to lose control when you get it back, let me know by nodding your head. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. I want you to imagine you're no longer watching a boxing match, no longer watching a football game, no longer driving a car, but returning all the way back to the present, listening to my voice, with a sense that this game of food now feels winnable. It feels winnable because you can win in so many different ways. Making a good choice following a bad choice feels like you're winning. And the more you win, the more you want to play. This game is infinitely winnable for you. Returning to the present, take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your nose, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that you're fully in this moment right now. As I count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.